Howdy folks, welcome to the channel. Today I got something a little bit different going on, not something I usually do, but recently I ordered 24 cinder blocks from Home Depot. I went and picked them up and they loaded them in the bed of my truck on a pallet. And I thought to myself, that's pretty cool. I can use all that wood for a project down the road. Now I've got this pallet sitting here in my garage and I've started taking it apart. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this pallet all the way the rest of the way apart and I'm gonna take all these boards and rip them in half right down the middle so that my planer will cover these entire boards in one pass. So that's the plan. Let's keep taking this pallet apart and see what happens. Got some ear pro on because this definitely isn't quiet, and what I'm doing is I'm taking one hammer and sticking it up underneath there. See if I can hold that with my foot. Then I'm taking the other one and I'm just whacking it in there until it gets set. And then I start prying the board up nice and carefully to try to avoid splitting it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna get all these boards pried up and then I'm gonna go back through and take all the nails out of each one of these boards. All right, looks like we ended up with 12 planks and 4 2x4s. All right, so I had to swing by Home Depot to pick something up. I'm gonna try to do most of this with basic hand tool. I'm in the McDonald's drive-thru, by the way, you know how it is. Had to get some nourishment. I'm gonna try to do as much as I can of this with the simplest tools as possible. I mean, that's all I have is simple tools. The only thing I didn't have that I needed to get is the table saw, and that's gonna help me rip some of those boards in half, and that'll help make short work of a lot of this stuff that might have been a lot, rougher to do without a table saw. However, while I was down at Home Depot, I did manage to get my hands on a couple more pallets. So there's a couple more projects we can do later on down the road. All right, so we got the table saw all unloaded and put together, and I'm taking these boards and ripping them right down the middle like that and turning them into these little slats like this. So these ones right here have already been planed. You can tell the difference. I mean, the wood's not nearly as rough. Just take your tape measure and measure the width of the board. Looks like, again, we got 3 3/8, and then you just divide that by 2. All right, so we'll get our rip fence set here to 1 11/16. What do we set to? Looks like we're just between 1/32 and 3/64. I'm not very good at my fractions, so we'll just call it there. And then we'll go ahead and take a nice little, about 3/64 layer off of the top of this, just to go ahead and take this rough, ugly looking wood right off the top here. So, do just that. All right, so as you can see here now, I'm just taking my planer and taking that little notch right there. Wipe this lens off. So now I'm just taking that little notch right there, putting it right on the corner of my board and chamfering this edge. So that leaves me with a board that looks like this, and it's not totally perfect, but the idea is that that'll be a little bit easier and nicer on your butt when you're sitting on it than just a hard edge. And with that, looks like we pretty much have all the boards cut for the seat. All I need to do is cut them down to their final length. So I'll cut these screw holes, or these nail holes rather, off the end on that side, and these nail holes at the end off this side. So we'll lose about probably 2 to 3 inches off of this overall length here. All right, got these all set up in the miter saw. So I'm just gonna cut these all at once, about 1.5 inches off of them. And then I'm gonna flip them over, line them all up on this side that I just cut, and then cut about 1.5 inches off the other end. In this instance right here, I am gonna have to use this 2x4 that I had laying around the garage here. It's the only, I'm gonna try to limit it to only this one 2x4 that's not from the pallet. Just that these 2x4s that were on the pallet are not quite long enough for what I want to do with them. So, like I said, I'm gonna try to limit it just this one 2x4 that I'm using that did not come with the pallet. So, let's rip this in half and see what we end up with. Have the same edge against the roof vents, cut it the other way. Alright, so this is what we end up with, two relatively similar widths. You can see this one on the bottom here is a little bit thicker, but that shouldn't be too huge of a deal. All right, so now what I've done here is I've laid my slats out with the spacing that I desire. I've measured the width of the bench seat here. So I've got about a 14¼ inch bench seat here. So I wanted to make sure that my width of my support frame for it is going to be the exact right width to match my spacing when I'm all the way done. So, you know, say the width of these two boards together is 3¼ and I need a final width of 14¼ then I'm going to cut this inside board here to 11 inches because I'm subtracting 3¼ inches off of my 14¼ inch overall length. And then when I add these two boards on the end here, that gives me my 14¼ inch overall length, and that's what I have right here. So got my two boards, got this thing all, you know, clamped up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zip some screws into the side here, but first I'm going to drill a pilot hole in these because this is some weaker soft wood, so I don't really want to have this stuff splitting on me. Alrighty, check it out. We got our box all made up. It's not quite even. I haven't got everything measured up and bolted up permanently yet, but it's looking pretty good. Alright, so now I'm going to cut some risers for the armrests, because we're going to have a couple of 2x4s come up this way, and then I'm going to have a rest on top, and then the back is going to bolt to the armrest. So we have 3 inches sticking out here on either side to secure an armrest to. So I'm going to rip this 2x4 down to 3 inches. I already got my saw set up to have exactly 3 inches on this side of the tooth. So I'm accounting for the kerf here, and we'll rip the 2x4 right here down to about 3 inches. So last night I got the arms all finished up on the bench here. This is what I came up with for my design. Got it all done, took a look at it and decided, I don't really like that. I don't want to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back apart and go back to the drawing board with these armrests. Instead, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2x4 like this and use that as my leg and my armrest piece at the same time. So I'll just take this 2x4, mark it right about here, and cut it at that same exact height. Cut all 4 legs to the same exact height. But the only problem with this is I will have to use one more board that was not from this, one more 2x4 that was not from the pallet. But anyway, I got my board marked, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut 3 of them at once, and then I'm gonna cut the last little bit off of this leftover right here. I forgot to hit the record button on this camera before I made the cut, but anyway, I'm done with this cut, and I got 3 even legs here. Let's go ahead and line up this last board and cut our last leg. So a lot of times what I like to do rather than measuring and marking is just set my board on top and run the blade by my board and make sure it just perfectly skims it, and that should give me pretty much a perfectly accurate cut just within sanding distance. Go ahead and make our cut right there. I like that much better. See, as soon as I threw those on, I think it just changed the whole look of the bench, and right now I'm liking this. I think it vibes way better with the style of this bench, so this is what we're gonna go for. All right, now I'm gonna plane these down, mainly just to remove a layer and kind of clean these up a little bit. so I got this other one screwed in. I went 8 inches from the top of the board was 8 inches from the bottom of this here, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Drill a little hole. And it's split anyway, wouldn't you know it? Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so I think I decided how I'm gonna go ahead and attach my back piece here. I got these 2 pieces cut down to 4 inches, and I drilled pocket holes in them with a Craig jig. And I think I'm gonna stick them right up here, flush up against that, or maybe just a little bit below it, something like that. And then I'll make a box, essentially, for my back part, and I'll drill a hole through right about here, and then just bolt essentially this to my back part, so it'll be supported right here with a bolt, and then it'll just set up against this surface right here. So it may be kind of hard to see what I'm talking about right now, but you'll see it start to come together. But right now I'm gonna get these bolted up. Make a box out of these 2x4s like this. I'll cut them down to the right width so that it fits inside, and it'll be a box. And then I'll just have a hole drilled through here with a bolt supporting this, and then the bottom will rest up against here, and that will allow me to have sort of an angle to this back here, so that's not like sitting up against a brick wall. So I'm gonna mark my board. So I got some boards cut for my sides to give me the height for this box back here. And I'm just gonna put pocket holes in either side of them so that I can secure these. All right, now in order to make sure I get this perfectly flat and flush, I'm gonna use this here to guide me. And there we have some beautifully, somewhat hidden joints. Yay, Craig jig. Alrighty, folks, it's a new day, bright and early. Everyone's still asleep. I got the frame done for the seat back here. It's all sanded and everything's ready to go. It's ready to be put on as soon as I get the slats made for it. And so what I decided is that I'm gonna go ahead and do slats rather than in this direction, like the bench seat. I'm gonna do them in this direction. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have them obviously level with the bottom here. And then I'm gonna go real high in the middle, and then I'm gonna slowly taper my way downwards to make sort of like an arch on this seat back. Hopefully that'll look nice and pretty. So anyway, got the frame all done. I got a couple of skinny boards cut here for my slats. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plane every single one of these, get some nice clean looking surfaces on these. This side looks like it's already been planed. And then I'm gonna cut them all down to size. I'm gonna probably cut them all down to the same length first, lay them all out, get my spacing right, and then I'll mark where I wanna cut each one of these to make my arch. Let's cut some slats. Got 12 slats here. All of them are about the same size. Let's lay these things out and see how we're gonna end up doing this. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick where I want my highest point to be and measure that, and then I'm gonna go down an inch on each one, or well, about an inch on each one of these slats so that it makes kind of an arc. Alrighty, we got all these slats marked here. Bang, bang, about a ½ inch apart. And I got some of them cut, and we're just making these cuts here. So all I'm doing is I'm making sure to line them up nice and flush here on the bottom edge. And then I'm just taking my top edge and lining the saw up right with that mark. So I'll just put that shadow of the saw blade right on that mark. So boom, just like that. And I'm ready to make my cut. And then rinse and repeat. Alrighty, got all my slats cut here. Only thing left to do is to get them spaced out and screwed in. So get my spacer blocks. Alrighty, now I'm gonna get started on making this little side table over here. So I got a couple pieces cut here, basically just a rectangle. These are just pieces of 2x2, and we'll drill some pocket holes in them and get this little box secured together. Alright, with the box all done, we got the leftover slats from the bench back there. We got them laid out. Looks like we're gonna need 3 more of them. So I ripped one more of these boards down the center. This is my last board, and I'll go ahead and plane these down and cut 3 more. Well, actually I only need 2 more because I have one right there. But like I said, I'll plane one of these down, cut it in half, and then I need to figure out what I'm gonna do for the legs as far as this table goes. So that's where I'm at. Alrighty, so tabletop and bench seat back have been sanded. I'm just working on getting this rest of this bench, I suppose. I don't know what you'd call this, the bench, sanded. And then after that, all that's really left to do is build some legs for that table and stain this whole joint, and we're done. Then I'm gonna list this thing on Facebook Marketplace and see what we can bring in. Alrighty, folks, I'm sitting here getting this video edited up, and I just wanted to show you guys the final product and cover a couple things that I didn't get on camera. Sitting here under our beautiful patio cover, which I will leave a link to the video on how you can build one for yourself right around here somewhere, is our finished pallet, bench, and side table. Looking beautiful as ever. So I got them all staged up here for a pictures for Facebook Marketplace. I finished them about a couple weeks ago and listed them on Facebook Marketplace last week. They've just kind of been sitting out here ever since. I decided to go ahead and leave them unfinished, so that way whoever ends up buying them can either decide to finish it themselves, or they can choose from a few different options of finishes that I will go ahead and do for them. So I wanted to cover how I mounted the back panel on this bench, and I also wanted to cover how I went about doing the legs for this. So you guys saw me build the top of this table, but you didn't see me do the legs. So what I did, and it was super simple, is I just eyeballed the angle that I wanted my legs to sit at, and then using this straight apron right there, I transferred the mark onto my board, onto my leg board, and then off of my mark, I just took my speed square, checked my mark, and then, so say my mark was right there, that would be a 15-degree angle, and I'm pretty sure that's about what these were. So I just make a 15-degree cut on one end, and then I go to my final length and make a 15-degree cut in the same direction on the other end. So 2 parallel cuts, 15 degrees,
to whatever length you desire, and that's all it was. This is 4 of the same exact boards with 2 parallel cuts in them. So as far as this back panel goes, you guys saw me do this, and you guys saw me build this, but you didn't see me put this bolt in there. So super simple. All I did was clamp this panel in place and then drill a hole as straight as I could through this piece right here, through this little ear is what I'm gonna call it, and then straight through the back panel there. See right there, nut and a washer. And that is what's holding this back panel on. And also I used carriage bolts so that it would be kind of sort of somewhat flush and would be a little bit more visually appealing than a hex head sitting right here. Alrighty folks, that is it for today. Hey, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. You know what? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Check out some more of my other videos. I'm gonna have a lot more woodworking projects like this coming up, so you're not gonna want to miss those. Alrighty guys, thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.